Think about this for a second. 70% of our planet is ocean, just vast, moving water. And in all that movement, there's a mind-boggling amount of energy, right? But it's almost completely untouched. So today, we're going to dig into what it would actually take to tap into that power. We're talking about marine renewable energy and what it could mean for, well, the future of everything. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's our game plan. First up, we need to talk about the big problem we're all facing. Then, we'll get to the potential solution, marine renewable energy, or MRE for short. We'll check out some real-world projects, but we'll also get real about the big challenges. After that, we'll see how this could spark a whole new blue economy. And finally, we'll map out what needs to happen next. Right, so first things first. Why are we even having this conversation? Why the big rush for new energy sources? Well, the answer is pretty straightforward, and it's something we're all living with. Our reliance on fossil fuels, it's just not sustainable. It's driving the climate crisis, and we are at a point where we need some serious, game-changing solutions. Fast. And this isn't some far-off, abstract idea. This is what the experts, like the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, are telling us. Just look at this map. It's a projection of what our world could look like if we just keep doing what we're doing. See those dark red areas? That's a temperature jump of up to 7.5 degrees Celsius. That's almost 14 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not just a pretty picture, it's a stark warning. This is exactly the future we're trying to steer away from.
Okay, so what's the data that leads to a map like that? Well, this chart here lays it all out. It shows us 3 different possible futures for CO2 in our atmosphere. That bottom line, that's the best-case scenario, where we make huge changes. But the top 2 lines, that's our current trajectory. That's business as usual. And you can see, that curve is climbing, and it's climbing fast. The gap between those paths isn't just a number on a chart. It's the difference between a future we can handle and one that's, well, pretty scary. We absolutely have to bend that curve.
Which, you guessed it, brings us right back to the oceans. If we need a massive clean energy source, could the answer literally be washing up on our shores? Let's get a really clear handle on what marine renewable energy, or MRE, is all about.
So here's the official definition. And what I like about it is that it's super clear. It's not just about getting electricity from the ocean. The key words here are continuously and ecologically sustainable. This whole idea is built on the principle of providing power without making the same environmental mistakes we've made in the past. It's setting a really high bar from the get-go. Now, MRE isn't just one single thing. It's more like a whole family of different technologies. And a really simple way to think about them is to split them into 2 groups. In one corner, you've got the super predictable stuff, tides, right? They're controlled by the moon. You can set your watch by them. Same with OTech, which uses the constant temperature difference in the ocean. Then, in the other corner, you have the more variable sources, like waves and offshore wind, that change with the weather. And you can imagine that predictability is a massive, massive plus when you're trying to run a power grid. All right, let's do a quick rundown of the main technologies here. You've got wave energy devices that basically bob or snake around in the water to make power. Then there's tidal energy, which is a lot like a wind turbine, but, underwater, spun by the tides. OTech is pretty wild. It's basically a giant engine that runs on the difference between warm tropical surface water and the super cold water deep down. And then you have salinity gradient power. It's less common, but it actually generates energy from the simple act of fresh water mixing with salt water, like where a river meets the sea. Pretty cool, huh? Now, I know some of this might sound like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but people have actually been working on this for decades. So let's take a look at some of the real projects around the world that have been leading the charge. Yeah, looking at this timeline, you can see this is not some brand new idea. We're talking way back in 1984, Canada built a tidal plant that's still running. Then you jump to 2003 and Scotland sets up EMEC, which became this major hub for testing new tech. A few years later, Norway gets a salinity gradient pilot project working, and more recently, you've got countries like China giving OTech a shot. The point is, this idea has been slowly but steadily building for a long, long time. And that EMEC Center in Scotland is a perfect example of what happens when you really commit. They didn't just build one little project. No, they built a world-class testing ground where anyone with a new idea can come and try it out in some of the toughest ocean conditions on the planet. And in doing that, they've created this whole ecosystem, jobs, innovation, expertise. It's proof that this isn't just about energy. It's about building an entire new industry. Okay, so that begs the question, right? If this has been around so long and has so much potential, why do we see these things everywhere? Well, the simple answer is that trying to tame the ocean is just incredibly hard.
So now we've got to hit the pause button and take a hard look at the very real challenges that have kept MRE from taking off. This table really nails the central dilemma. On one hand, the pros are huge. We're talking clean, reliable energy that doesn't eat up precious land. But the cons are just as big. The cost to build and install this stuff in a constantly moving saltwater environment, it's astronomical. We're talking way more expensive than your average solar or wind farm. Plus, there just aren't many big, successful commercial examples to copy, and we still don't know everything about the environmental impact. It's a tough balancing act.
And believe me, that financial risk is very, very real. Just look at the story of Palamas Wave Power. These guys were the rock stars of wave energy. Their sea snake device was famous. They were pioneers. And yet, they went bankrupt in 2014. It's just a brutal reminder that having cool tech isn't enough. If the numbers don't add up, it's not going to work. And you can bet investors remember stories like that.
But it's not just about the dollars and cents. There are some really big environmental questions we haven't fully answered yet. I mean, sure, MRE doesn't pump out CO2, but what about its physical footprint in the ocean? Could those spinning turbines hurt whales or dolphins? Could the noise mess with migration routes? One study I saw mentioned that a porpoise population near a wind farm in Denmark took 10 years to get back to just 30% of its original size. We just don't have enough long-term data on what happens when you build a whole farm of these things, and that kind of uncertainty makes regulators, well, very nervous. But even with all those challenges, the big vision for MRE is about so much more than just keeping the lights on in our cities. The really exciting part is how it could be the foundation for a completely new, sustainable way of working with the ocean, something people are starting to call the blue economy.
So to really get what that means for the economy, just think about everything that has to happen to build one of these projects. It's a massive operation. You need scientists to survey the sites, manufacturers to build these super specialized parts, special ships and crews to install them. Then you need to connect them to the grid and have people on hand for maintenance for years to come. Every single step in that chain is an opportunity for jobs, for new businesses, and for developing brand new skills.
And check this out. This is one of my favorite applications. Think about industries that are already out there on the water, like this fish farm. A lot of the time, they're burning dirty, expensive diesel fuel to power their operations. MRE could give them their own clean, local power source. And that doesn't just cut their cost and pollution, it lets them grow their business sustainably. It's a game changer for everything from fisheries to ocean research.
And we're not talking about a niche market here. The global aquaculture industry alone is worth almost $275 billion. Billion. If MRE could power just a small piece of that, it would be a huge economic win. It's a perfect match, really. MRE helps the blue economy grow clean, and the blue economy gives MRE a ready-made market to help it get off the ground.
So, okay, let's recap. We've got this incredible technology with massive potential, but we've also got some really big hurdles in the way. So the big question is, how do we get from here to there? What are the actual concrete steps we need to take to finally unlock all that power sitting in our oceans?
Well, there's no single silver bullet. It's got to be a coordinated effort. First, governments have to step up and create clear, predictable rules for developers. We've seen places like Nova Scotia do this with dedicated MRE Acts. Second, you have to make it less risky for investors. We're talking tax credits, public loans, things like that. Third, everyone needs to work together. No one country or company has all the answers, so sharing research is crucial. And finally, we need to move past these little pilot projects. We need strategic investment to build commercial-scale farms that can actually make a dent in our energy needs.
At the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. The power is there. The technology, it's tough, but it's real, and it's getting better every day. And we all know the consequences of doing nothing about climate change are unthinkable. So the real question isn't about technology, it's about will. It's going to take a ton of money, real political courage, and a vision that looks decades ahead. The ocean is literally offering us a way out. The only question left is, are we brave enough to take it?